Nice one, drivers. Right then. So last time we went over, finished like phase one, and then introduced like started going to phase two. And today I'm gonna go over a bit more about phase two, and then joining battalion and cover like what's that joining battalion and fitting in with your blokes. 2 seconds. Yeah, and then I'm going to speak about something about losing William Aldridge towards well, as I joined battalion, which is something that I haven't really. I'll admit now I haven't processed that properly. I don't think. I don't think I've had the time or the emotional bandwidth to process that properly. I've spoken about it a couple of times with my therapists over the years, different therapists, and each time it's been a bit hard to talk about. So I'll touch on that and speak about that and what that was like for me. And then because I'm gonna speak about that, and it's not really a decent thing to speak about, I thought I would tell one of my top 5, if not top 3, funniest stories throughout my whole army career. Let me get my bearings there when I'm fucking thinking about it too much. So even if you get bored, just stick around and at least have a listen to that at the end. So yeah, so when I got to phase 2, I went to ITC Catterick up in Yorkshire, up in Darlington. Oh, fucking hell. And it's completely different to joining Harrogate. Harrogate, you were with 16-year-olds. That was terrible. You're with 16-year-olds, all the same age, whereas in your regular sign-up, go on, Shagger. Yeah, go on. Nice one. In your regular sign-up, you can be ages 17 to 33, which is why I was allowed to be put into that platoon. Now, it's really interesting when you send into one of these platoons, especially coming from Harrogate, because the field is completely different straight away. You get spoken to different by the corporals. There's obviously a lot more rules when you're teaching recruits that are when you're teaching recruits that are 16 years old. You know, what were we even know? We were sniper. What the fuck we were sniper for? So yeah, you get spoken to a lot different. I did have an absolute gleaming training team when I got there. It was I was very, very, very grateful for looking back at the training team I had. So I had oh, let me speak about some of the guys first. Some of the guys that come to mind when I was thinking about this episode was the reason why it's different is because when in Harrogate you got lads that are wide boys from places like, you know, fucking East London or whatever. But they're just young wide boys, you know, they're 16, they haven't really seen much, they're just seeing what their elders act like and they think they can act like that. Whereas when you join a fucking regular platoon, they're boys that are, you know, wait, look at that cunt over there, get down, yup. You know, they're guys that, they've been about a bit, there's a reason why they're joining, not because they've done bad at school, but they're probably maybe struggling in life or they're going through shit or something like that, or maybe they just wanted to join the army, but they've definitely seen a bit of life. So they're real wide boys, you know. We had a lad he was from Hackney, and he taught me about terrible rifle. Yeah, motherfucker. And he taught me about E8, brother. E8 fam, that was it. And so this is the type of guy that he got in a scrap on the line, and he ended up going to fucking go and get his entrenching tool, and he's fucking walked back on the line with an entrenching tool in his hand. This is something insane to me. You'd never see anything like that in Harrogate. So it's a bit like realizing that you're not just messing with 16-year-olds when I went to this platoon. And also I had the old man Darren Hounslow next to me in my bed space next to me. He was 33 years old, which is crazy because that's a year younger than I am now. So you know, I speak about joining up at 16 and not really having a civilian personality. Can't imagine what it was like joining at 33 and being the age I am now. And then, you know, being this age and then joining up and having to turn yourself into a soldier, and then also on the other end of that, leaving and having to go back to being a civilian. Do you go back to trying to be the same person that you was, or do you you know, I don't have to know. I don't know how that would be for somebody that left at an older age or joined at an older age and then left again. Crazy. So my training staff, we had platoon sergeant was Tom Welsh. He was my cap badge. He was wasn't the tallest bloke, but fucking hell, we could bench Jupiter if he wanted to. He was huge. He was stacked, and one scary motherfucker. You just make eye contact with him and you go, "Fuck you looking at, Samways?" Absolutely, just sniper again, bastard. Absolute scary bastard. Yup. I'm gonna change. And then I had Corporal Powell, who was one of the most diligent screws that I got to work with whilst I was in the army. Another scary motherfucker there, I tell you. And then I had Matt Jenkins, who was he had about 9 lungs. Oh, I didn't change again. How'd you change it? He had about 9 lungs. We'd go out on every tab. It didn't matter what weight anybody else was carrying. He'd always have about 40 kilos in his day sack. Ah, no, it's one of mine. He'd always have about 40 kilos, colourblind, honestly. He'd always have about 40 kilos in his day sack. And then you'd go up and just sprint off about a kilometre away. Or if he was at the ranges, he'd just go and do sprints up and down the hill. Bastard. And then my platoon commander there was, I'll speak about him a bit more in a second, because he gave us some realities of war briefs, which you get whilst you're in training, which is, as it is, what it says on the tin, realities of war. You'd definitely will hurt him, man. You can't. Yeah, he gave some realities of war briefs, which was really fucking. How's he not dying? Yeah, he gave us a realities of war brief. So I'm really into this game and he shut down. And my DS in Harrogate in Catterick was a guy called Ollie Hartshaw, who was he introduced me to the word lizard. And became this weapon is donkey. Became one of my favourite words to ever use. That's about it. So one of my funniest stories straight away from Catterick was, and I'll tell you about when Corporal Powell. So I later got to work with Corporal Powell in my battalion, and I believe we was friends. But when we was in depot, I was in my section room. I was in 4 sections. So we was right down the other end of the corridor from where the platoon office was, which is where the section commanders and platoon sergeant, platoon commanders sit. Now we was in the room, in the section room. All the section were in there. We was doing a kit inspection thing. And Corporal Hartshaw, my DS, Ollie Hartshaw, was in there, and he was talking to us. And then Corporal Powell used to bring his dog into the office, and his dog came into our section room, and he come up to my leg, just give it a little stroke, and Corporal Hartshaw went to the office door. He's hung out and he's gone, "Ben, Sam waves his finger in your dog." And I've never heard Ben Powell shout like this before in my life. He Sam waves. And I got fucking smashed for about an hour. Absolutely fucking smashed. And it still makes me laugh to this day. I walk back into the section room, and And his face was like, "Sorry, mate, didn't realise he was going to react like that." It was different in Catterick. You know, they could the locker inspections were just as harsh, but we was on the 2nd floor, so your shit would just get thrown out the window. It wasn't like oh, nice one. It wasn't like in Harrogate. They wasn't allowed to do that, and it was when I first realised that there was more rules in Harrogate than I first initially thought. One thing that really stuck with me, reason why I waited to speak about my platoon commander in Catterick, he said one time in what we call a realities of war brief. So basically, they sit us down inside the cinema and they talk to us about what war's really like, and they will show us whatever content they decide to show us, which best gives us the realities of war. Now he said something to us that said he said, "Be careful what you wish for." And that stuck with me for my whole army career. And even to this day, I think about it so much, because obviously after going through operations, when we speak about what is your perception of tour? You know, is it what's your perception of a good tour and a bad tour? And it obviously goes down to probably what trade you're in. To be honest with you, as an infantry, we don't class a good tour as being quiet and not seeing any kind of contacts. You know, we class that as being just a quiet tour. You know, but really, what kind of perception should we change our perception of that? Because for a lot of us, I think we he's getting away, little bastard. For a lot of us, we say, oh yeah, I had a really good tour, and that means we got in loads of contacts. We smashed it, and I think that comes from maybe wanting to prove ourselves, or our belief in celebrating having decent contacts. But for me, it changed because when I went on tour, I was a lance corporal, and obviously, whenever it doesn't matter what rank you are, whenever you go on operations, you kind of like want to prove yourself, especially as an infantry. So when I got back from tour, and boom, 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 when I get back from tour, and I've been through all this shit, and I'm start struggling and stuff, and then I started thinking about what he said about be careful what you wish for. There was definitely, before I went on tour, you know, we visualize things as we do. It doesn't matter whether it's not like you're asking for it, but you definitely visualize yourself in certain situations. And I visualized myself in situations in which one of my soldiers got blown up, and I visualized myself how I would react in those kind of situations, because you kind of have to visualize yourself, you have to mentally prepare yourself for those situations. And then there's two minds of thinking about it. You can either think, did I ask for this? Did I wish for this? You know, there's some people that believe in like the law of attraction, and like, did I bring this into my own universe? And of course you didn't. We just got dropped off in the middle of the fucking Helmand province. That's why it happened. But it's very easy to sometimes sit in those kind of thoughts, especially if you think too long about them and think, yeah, I kind of did want this, and then they can become really, really, really destructive thoughts. But it definitely stuck with me for a long time, and then it's something that I definitely told my recruits when I was an instructor, like, be careful what you wish for. If it's just a crazy thing to think. It's something that really did stick with me. I thought about it an awful lot when I got back. But yeah, I definitely didn't ask for it. Ooh, go on. It's easier being in a tank. But yeah, it's nicer being in with older blokes when I was in training, because I met some really good friends. My nickname in that platoon was Asbo, just because I was the youngest one. Oh, motherfucker. And it's good to play poker nights. They taught me how to play poker. Got to lose 20 quid every night, every week. Not every night. That would have been fucked. Basically, I had a direct debit of 20 quid every week, because I don't think I ever won, but it made me start to enjoy poker, and at least they taught me. They probably taught me it wrong, but there's some really good guys in that platoon. So I want to talk about turning up to battalion, because it's probably one thing that can be so different for so many different people. Yoy. I turned up to battalion, so I left at Catterick at the age of 17. Oh, yup. I left turn up to Germany at the age of 17. So when I turned up to Germany, we had our C company was on Tedek 13 in Iraq, and B company was in Afghanistan on 8 and 9, with support company, Y company attached to them. Now, I was only 17 and I couldn't deploy, whereas some of the lads that I went to Harrogate with ended up deploying. Went to Tedek 13. So they all get sent to C company and A company, whereas I got sent to B company, who were the gents who were out in Afghanistan. Now, it's hard when you turn up to battalion as it is, let alone when you turn up to a unit who's just come back from operations, let alone an operational tour that was active as fuck. I'm not a driver, by the way. Now, when we turned up, obviously when they get back, I look young and fresh as fuck anyway, so I look like a child. And obviously the stories of Does Your Mum Know You're Is started again. But it was different turning up to a battalion that had just got back from tour. I had a really good uh, set of training staff again. My company sergeant major was Sergeant Major Kelly, who was, as soon as we arrived, we instantly knew that he was one of the most respected men in battalion. Um, I've got another story later on which involves him when I was down on juniors, and something that my DS had I had a good juniors, but which is our promotion course. However, I did have an interesting colour sergeant DS who instructor on it, and I got some very interesting stories about him, which involve Sergeant Major Ben Kelly. So I'll save that one there. Anyway, yeah, and then we had some screws. I turned up 36 platoon, which was referred to as 36 for their antiques. They were renowned for on the piss when I was out drinking. It was some incredible stories. Probably most of my top 10 stories will come from those times. So yeah, it's like if you ever seen Band of Brothers, it's pretty much like turning up to that. Motherfucker. It's pretty much like turning up to that, you know. It's a company that's just full of experience, full of knowledge. Yes, we remembered. And you can really feel that bond in between them. It's not like when you're in normal training that you get a bond when you're in training, but the bond that you feel like when you turn up to a company that's just come back from an operational tour, it's well, you end up feeling like it, but it's definitely different. There's not really many there's cliques, but there's bonds between the cliques. You know, they would do anything for each other, regardless of what kind of identity they have when they're in their civilian clothes. Because obviously we're definitely completely different people other than when we wear a uniform. Oh, got me a cup of tea. So I had Gaz Pamphlet, he was my full screw, and Chicken Little, and they really showed me how amazing they were when it comes to prepping lessons and being professional. Even though it was in battalion, like people said like it was a lot more relaxed, and I didn't think like it was going to be. You just didn't think it was going to be as much like that, but it really was, and they really did hold a really high standard for training and keeping their blokes, especially because when they got back, there's a big changeover of blokes. A lot of the privates left, and a lot of the guys, a lot of us were new, so they really did have to bring us up to scratch before we ended up deploying again in 2011, which is obviously only 2-3 years later. We had Lewis Twyford, who was a proper PAMED. He has a younger brother, but his younger brother eventually ended up joining, but he never quite lived up to what his older brother was, the knowledge of his big brother. Bless him. You won't like saying that. And then there's a funny story from this one B company. I'll refer to them. There were two Lance Corporals, but we'll refer to them as the Mitchell brothers. And I won't say their real names, but so when you first join the military and when you first turn up to battalion, you're known as a crow. They call it like a combat recruit of war, I believe they stand for. But when you call it a crow, and because they call you a crow, there was one. We'll go with Phil Mitchell. The Mitchell brothers are two brothers that were from a British TV program called EastEnders, and so we got Phil would, when we was on parade in the morning, he would stand out at the front and he would hold birdseed, get actual birdseed out in his hand, and we'd have to go up. He'd go, "Bro, come and get your breakfast." We'd have to line up, and he would fucking eat, and we'd have to eat the birdseed out of his hand every morning. And then we had his brother, who was it wasn't his actual brother, but we'll refer to him as the Mitchell brothers, just so we don't have to say their names. And one of my first days in battalion, when you line up in the morning, we get on parade in the morning, you're normally going out and fizz. And when I first went out, I put my water bottle down by my feet, and he's come out and he's gone, "Where's your water bottle?" And before I had a chance to say down by my feet, he's gone right in my chest. Just give me a slight dig. And 2 seconds. Give me a slight dig, and then I say a slight dig. It was enough to make me make gay noises, you know, give it a little bit of like, but hang on 2 seconds. And then as soon as he's done that, we've come straight out onto straight out onto a run. So he's giving me a little dig, and then I've had to start running, making gay noises still. And then we had Scottish Stewart, who was a really young pool screw. He was like 20 or 20, 22, 23 years old, I think, when I met him. And he used to play rugby, so he was stocky as fuck, and he just used to dump tackle people all the time. What's going on? And he just used to dump tackle people all the time. And he was I used to hate it. He used to be able to give you dead arms, just instant, scary bloke. I had a guy called Cool Shy. There's always interesting characters. I used to hate going to his door. Whenever he used to have to go to his door, he'd always answer the door with, like, he had like these homemade, like, I remember having like a little fucking bow and arrow, homemade fucking arrow thing that you used to answer the door with every time. Be like, what? You should stand outside his door, like waiting to knock, and be like building yourself up to it. It'd be funny as fuck. But as soon as we turn up to tour, so it's like about fitting in. It was really hard to fit in when with that's like the full screws and like your NCOs. Like the only way you can fit in with them is if you don't want to get shit when you first turn up to Battalion is be fit. If you can be fit, then you mostly get left alone by the full screws and the training staff. However, when it comes to the privates, you have to fit in on all levels. You have to be a sound bloke. You have to be fit. You have to know your knowledge. You have to not be lazy. You have to be hygienic. You have to be up early. You can't be a cunt in any way, shape, or form. You have to be able to be a decent bloke. Otherwise, it won't be easy for you. You know. I remember when we used to go down with the senior Toms. We'd go down the sheds and work on the Warriors. And if you why does it keep fucking doing this? If you they'd give you a food order and you'd have like 13 baguettes. You like put your little notebook out. You're like 13 baguettes, all different orders, no mayonnaise and with no tomatoes and all this kind of shit. And you'd go down to the baguette shop, and if you got one wrong, you're an absolute shit cunt, labeled a shit cunt, and then it just gets terrible for you. But when we first turned up, we had to go on to freedom parades because the guys turned to come back from Herrick. We had to go on freedom parades. Now I didn't go on tour. Wasn't even 18 yet. So, but when we turned up to battalion, we was in green kit. We wasn't in multicam just yet. So yeah. So when they went on their freedom parades, they was all in deserts. So we stood out like a thumb anyway. So then we had to get deserts, and the fact that we were stood in deserts was terrible because we just got counter shit for it for being crow in deserts and stuff, you know. And I didn't look like I belonged in deserts anyway. I still couldn't grow any facial hair at that time. Um, and then we went on these freedom parades, and uh, yeah, you know, you guys like I remember we was marching through somewhere, and someone said, "Oh my God, look how young they look," you know. And someone obviously had seen me, but definitely hadn't been on tour at that stage, and I felt like you could hear it in the other guys, you know, oh, you didn't even fucking go and stuff like this, you know. And I understand why they felt like that, but it's so hard to try and fit in when you hadn't been on tour and you turn up to those kind of things. Whereas on the other end, you got someone like when we was on tour, and you got Ches Nile who fucking when we was on tour, we had a CP, a little checkpoint, and when it was pissing down, it was just fucking full of mud, and the blokes were sleeping on top of crates in little fucking tents, just terrible living conditions. And then this guy turns up, he goes straight on tour. He's a chippy, so then he builds blokes basically a fucking house out in the middle of nowhere in Helmand. He's built them platforms, beds, and he just built us a full accommodation, a full checkpoint. And the man was loved, you know. The guy was a hero instantly. He was never going to get shit. He was never going to be put on shit duties after doing such a thing like that. Come on, Shaggo, get one in. Don't get in the Bedford, mate. In there. All right, fuck you. Yeah, so it's a completely different story, you know. Turning up, going straight on tour, becoming an absolute hero because he was a chippy, and then he went back and then obviously he's a good lad, a really good lad as well, you know. But fucking what a thing to be able to turn up and do for the blokes when they've been sleeping in those kind of conditions for ages. And then he went back and now he's still boxes for the army boxing team. You'd go see it into him. So yeah, there's different ends of like different versions of joining. Everyone has a different experience. But that must have been a hell of an experience for him, turning up to tour and doing that for everybody. Yeah, cool, boy, get it. So yeah, when we went on these freedom parades, this is probably the point that I definitely haven't. I'll admit I haven't processed it just yet. It's still like really hard for me to talk about. I don't know why. Whenever I talk about it to my therapist, like it becomes really hard to talk about when I start to think about it in depth. But we was on parade, and you. And we was on parade. We was on the parades in. We was on the parades, and let me just get this bit out. We was on the parades, and Mitch Brown come up to me and he said, "Have you heard about Will?" Now, if you haven't watched the recent episodes, then Will was the lad when we was in Harrogate. He was the lad that got put opposite me in the bed space, and we was our battle buddies when we was in Harrogate. So we bashed it up together, etc. Was an exercise, and yep, I've got you, Swan. No, I haven't. And yeah, so Mitch comes up to me and he says, "Have you heard about Will?" Now, Will would when we left Catterick, Will was one of the older ones. So I was born August the 4th, you know, so I was one of the younger ones in my year, whereas Will was one of the older ones. So when we left Harrogate, they went to Catterick within like 14 weeks. They were deploying. He deployed to Afghanistan as soon as he left phase 2. So yeah, Mitch obviously told me that he'd been blown up in Afghanistan, and he'd obviously been killed. It was on the same day as 4 other lads. The Rifles lost 5 lads that day, which is I say bad for me, but obviously I can't imagine what those guys were going through. The guys out on tour and the guys at home. But we went to straight over to Ben Kelly, who was our sub major at the time, and you know, he completely understood. Yo, as soon as we told him, he squared us away. He said, "Yeah, get your stuff." We was in England, you know, so it was lucky because we were based in Germany. So he said, "You know, get your stuff and square yourselves away." So me and Mitch Brown got reached out to by Lucy, Will's mum, who is a absolute beautiful lady and an amazing woman. Like she went through so much shit after Will died with the military, and she's just such a beautiful soul. Yeah, so we went straight up to Hereford and stayed at Will's grandparents' house. And I was 17, you know, it was so young to go through. Like, which is why I think I haven't really processed it just yet, because I think after this, like, we went straight through like pre-deployment training or whatever. Had to get on with things. You can't kind of dwell on it, especially when it's when one of your friends dies in a space where you're about to go or where you're training to go, and you know, there's most definitely a high probability that you're going to be involved in an explosion or in, you know, contacts. You're in an infantry regiment, so you'd expect so, as we do, you know, getting a good tour and stuff. Now, yeah, so we went up and 17 years old, read a poem at this funeral, and it was hard, you know, like looking over and seeing all the lads there from 4 section at Harrogate, still only 17 years old, just as young as me, and, you know, just seeing this full screws fair from Harrogate, it kind of like, I think it took the child out of me a little bit. I think it was changed me from being as jokey as I used to be, or definitely changed my personality. I know that much, but it's just something I definitely haven't really been able to process properly just yet, and I'm not sure just why. Definitely something I'm honest about, but it comes so early on in my army career, you know, like just before when I was leaving Catterick on Final X, my great grand died, who was the daughter of Harry Daniels, the one who won the Victoria Cross and the Military Cross. So she was obviously super proud of me joining the army after her dad being who he was. You know, she obviously got to see him during those times when he. I don't know why I done that. So yeah, it would have been nice for her to have known or to see me pass out, but and then I lost my dog as well, my dog Hattie. So. Yeah, it just wanted to bring up, like, I suppose early on in your career, it's not a pity party, obviously, definitely not a pity party. Just wanted to highlight again, just it's not just when we're on tour. It's not just when we're on tour and stuff. It's like straight away as soon as you join the military, you get a realization that you're going to be away when you're going to experience loss, and then the kind of mindset you have to have to when you do lose a friend in the way that I did when I lost Will, like. You know, it really did hurt and it really did take a lot out of me. But then my goal was always to be a section commander in the military, in the infantry. I wanted to go on tour, you know, and I wanted to have those good tours. So it comes down to, again, like, be careful what you wish for, because you know when you get into those situations that there's a high chance that you are going to take a casualty, as did end up happening with me when I went on tour. So yeah, I don't know. I'm still trying to find time to process it. I'm not sure how you approach it, how you do process it. It's I don't know what even processing it looks like, if I'm honest with you. Yo, not sure what it looks like. Is it taking a fucking massive bump of acid and going sitting down and just thinking about it forever? Or is it just accepting it and just pretending it is, you know, just moving on with it? Especially when it happened so long ago. You have to process it from a 34. I have to process it from a 34-year-old's mind rather than a 17-year-old's mind, and then you have to kind of like become the watcher of that memory, and you have to process it from a different point of view or a different perception. You have to see it through. You have to see yourself in as a younger person, and then process it. Like, because I definitely can't put myself in my own shoes now. Like, and put myself there now and then process it. Not sure. It's something that I did definitely have to look at. But yeah, I still go and see Will's family now, Lucy, when I do get the chance to go home. He's got a tree up there which I go and lay down by next to. I've always felt like whether it sounds gay, I know he's been like a guardian angel to me since the day we lost him. I definitely had him close to my heart and in my thoughts every day when I was in Afghanistan. Yeah, I went and stayed with his family. I still go and stay with them now. But when Mitch went up there, they gave us we had a roast, and it was loads of Brussels sprouts, and I hate Brussels sprouts. But terrible. And then she promises every time that she ain't gonna give me Brussels sprouts, but I always worry she's gonna, because I hate to be rude when it was his grandparents and not finish the Brussels sprouts. But you know, one day I'm sure she'll give them to me one day. So yeah, that was just like a bit as much as rubbish to talk about. It's something more rubbish for me to talk about in my own time, and that's probably harder something I need to process. But so the funny story that I wanted to tell was so I'm going to call him Sergeant A. He's going to come up in the story in a little while. But so yeah, exactly in this. So when we was in Canada, and I was a gunner in Canada, so we had a Warrior, which is, you can imagine, just a small armored fighting vehicle. I'm not going to call it a small tank. Yeah, and so in the back of it, it's not big as you can fit. Well, you know, you've got small bench this side, small bench that side. And one night we sat there in the middle of the prairies in Canada, 2010, and Sergeant A sat on this side. Okay, so I was platoon sergeant at the time, and myself sat here, and my mate Keo, one of my good mates as a private, was sat next to me on the right hand side. Now, Sergeant A, we're sat there talking away, eating scoff or whatever. Just must have been about 10 o'clock at night or something like this. And Sergeant A's just all of a sudden stopped and gone, just stood up. Yeah, he's reached over, got a bit of blue roll, and he's fucking just stood up. Started undoing his trousers, and me and Keo fucking sat back like, what the fuck's this guy doing? He's not said a thing. He fucking dropped the trousers, holds his hand out a bit of blue roll, and just fucking lays an absolute massive shit on his hand, on the blue roll, obviously. He's chuckling away to himself. The thing I was most surprised at is he didn't piss one single drop, just laid out this massive shit. And then he fucking goes out the back of the fucking wagon door, jogs all the way over to the 2IC's wagon. So the 2IC is like the captain. He's like normally a captain or like an officer in the company. And so inside one of these wagons, inside there, you got two seats. So we was in there when he took his shit, and then he's gone over, jumped up on top, gone inside the hatch, and inside, obviously, to look out of here when you batten down, you got an eyepiece, and he's led his shit across the top of the 2IC's eyepiece. And then ran all the way back over ran back over and ran in, done his trousers up, still hasn't taken a piss. And then we waited till the morning, and the 2IC's gone in there, and he's gone, who the fuck has left the shit on my eyepiece? It was one of the funniest things that, actually, we got many stories for Sergeant A from Canada and my whole army career, to be honest with you, when I served with him. He's a very, very funny man. But yeah, that was one of my funniest stories. But it's probably not that funny. It's probably disgusting to to anybody who never served, but if you can imagine it and you've been in the back of one of those wagons and you know what I'm on about, it's very, very, very funny situation that I got stuck in, especially as a young private. All right, right, and shaggers. I'm going to do these every Tuesday and Friday for the time being. There will definitely be 2 a week, and then on Sundays I'm just going to stream it on Twitch. They won't be uploaded to YouTube. They'll just be a Twitch stream, and eventually, as get more followers, then we'll be doing like a Q&A. People can chat, and I'll reply to them, etc., etc. But if you've made it this far, then you should definitely hit subscribe for me, shaggers. It's free to do, and it takes you 2 seconds. But yeah, all right, that's me out, gents.